When you're making a cast, while you're making that cast, do you know that cast will turn over? Or is there always a little bit of a hoping factor in there? If you have a little bit of a hoping factor in there that cast will turn over, it means you're not controlling the system. Because if you would control the system, every cast would turn over the same way, right? I asked already a couple of months ago, what is the highest degree of control in a flycaster? And I never got an answer for it. The reason for that is you are not being taught the methods and the principles of control. And there's a science behind control, and that is called control theory. This is what controlled process casting and positive reinforcement fly casting by Michael Waypoints is footing on, the control theory. So, and there's another thing that plays into that, and that is, for example, the question you hear a lot in a double-handed world. What line does suit this and that rod? The fact that you get this question a lot alone means that you are not being taught the skill set of tuning yourself into a rod and line system. That question alone is proof that you cannot feel the rod and the line. Because if you could feel the rod and the line, you wouldn't have to ask what line suits that rod, right? And that skill set can be taught very easy. But it isn't in the classic teachings, else there wouldn't be so many questions on that. That is interesting, isn't it? Because that skill set is not being taught, that leaves you always in a certain unknown space, in a vague territory where you're never certain about your line and rod combination, and which makes you a very easy target for a tackle industry to rip you off. Because if you don't know shit about your casting, every other idiot in this game can tell you, no, you gotta use this or that line, or you gotta use this and that rod, you know. If you are able to feel a rod and a line, and that is the skill set we teach here, there is no question about that anymore. And you will not believe how many people spend thousands of dollars and never get a fucking casting lesson because they are intimidated and afraid to go out and practice and play, because the negative reinforcing teachings of the casting tell you shit like, don't practice on your own, you develop bad memories, for example. Or they just don't make you want to go practice because they leave you in that unknown, in that afraid space. But here in the three-dimensional teachings, in the Autotellic Approach, we have developed secure and safe systems to play with a fly rod and line, and also to gain feedback and control over the system. The highest degree of control in a caster, what is that? That is the skill set you're not being taught. Ask yourself a question on a fishing day. How high is the cast percentage you're making where the cast and the presentation is suboptimum? Is it 10%? Is it 20, 30, 40, 50% suboptimum presentations? 80% not great presentations? You know what I mean? And the higher the degree of failed presentations, the less the chance of catching a fish. This is what you want to do, I suppose. Now, when you see the control failing very clearly is as soon as the wind picks up. As soon as the wind picks up, you see people's casting folding nearly by the minute or by the kilometer per hour wind increasing. And then you hear stuff like, that wind is a bad old bitch today. That bad old wind. And the fly fisher blames the wind. Sure, the wind is not to blame. Some people say I make a lot of wacky tam blah blah ploopy ploop about the casting. And I agree, I do. That is because I love casting and I know more about casting control and fly casting that I like to admit nearly, because I went through the learning process of the full cool casting cycle. Closed loop learning control is what we're doing here. And closed loop control and triple loop learning include a sort of a self-evaluation and a self-education and a self-empowerment. Because the problem in casting is you are not self-educated, you are educated in a top-down system that is in a single loop, non-questionable
It comes from a deep place in my trousers.
manner that is just overcome old king of the jungle of the lion teachings. For example, that you don't know what line to match to what rod. If you tape the reading of the rod, for example, is testimonial, is testament, or how do you say, is proof that you can't feel it, else you would know. And I mean, you see casting instructors, confirming even that 99.9% of the people do this and are always too fast and uncontrolled. That means the teachers and teachings in fly casting even have the unbelievable, what's the word here? The unbelievable, they have the balls to stand in front of you, tell you how to cast, and then say, but it doesn't work for 99.9% of the people. There are problems to be solved, and a PRFC presents solutions to these problems. Because after you went through the learning process, you will have no more questions. You will know what the highest degree of control is in a fly rod and in a caster. You will know how to feel a fly rod. Very precise and very easy. And you will also know what line to match to what rod at all times. And no matter what line or rod system, you will also be able to cast them very decently. You make the decisions yourself. I am only the annoying character that puts the truth on the table and it makes you aware of the bullshit that is out there and also the gaps in the teachings. Because if you learn how to fly cast, how is it possible that they don't teach you how to match a rod to a line as well? Is it a justification for the tackle shop owner that you come back and try another line and buy another line? Or a justification of a casting instructor's job? Or is the whole industry not seeing the concept in the universal code behind this so that you can teach yourself and empower yourself to become a better fly fisher and also help other people to grow into the sport? Because this is my top goal here, is to grow the sport of fly fishing, and with the tools of the PRFC you have it far easier to learn and to find out about the answers to these questions. If you need guidance in the process, give me a shout. Coolcaster Official on Instagram. And thank you very much for tuning in again. And please do not forget, we don't own the water owns us.